throughout her life and reign, the Queen held a unique position on the world stage as the head of state for 15 Commonwealth nations.
I'm determined to make the most of it and to do whatever I can to help, and I hope leave things behind a little bit better than I found them.
We may not ever know what Charles's actual inheritance is. Pieces of jewellery, special mementos will absolutely have been reserved for those great-grandchildren too.
When Queen Elizabeth II passed away, the world didn't just lose a monarch. A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It lost a living embodiment of British history, culture, and tradition. Her reign spanned decades, and her influence touched lives across continents. Yet behind the grand walls of Buckingham Palace, something extraordinary and deeply personal was unfolding. The Queen's will, a document shrouded in mystery, was finally being revealed. Its contents were bound to shake the royal family to its core and leave the public in awe. Prince William, carrying the immense weight of royal responsibility on his shoulders, conservationist father and future king, Prince William, is Britain's most popular royal after his grandmother, the Queen. He opened the will with a mixture of reverence and apprehension. What lay within wasn't just an inventory of priceless jewels, grand titles, or sprawling estates. It was something much more profound, a blueprint for the monarchy's future. The air in the room grew heavy with anticipation as each word of the document uncovered not just inheritances, but family secrets that could redefine the royal family's legacy forever. This wasn't merely a moment of mourning, but a pivotal chapter in the monarchy's story. Questions lingered in the minds of those present. What did the Queen intend to leave behind for future generations? And what hidden truths would this document bring to light? A legacy beyond riches. She truly was one of a kind. Lee Cowan looks back on the extraordinary life and times of Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor. The Queen's will wasn't just about material possessions. It was a profound statement of values, intentions, and trust. Every decision reflected her vision of how the monarchy should endure in an ever-changing world. Some family members would gain far more than they ever imagined, unexpected tokens of affection or responsibility, while others might be left with less than they hoped for, raising questions about their roles in the royal narrative. As Prince William read through the pages, the stakes grew higher with every revelation. It became evident that this wasn't about dividing wealth, but about securing the monarchy's foundation for generations to come. Each line carried weight, unveiling deep connections to tradition and perhaps even a few challenges to it. Whispers began to spread among those waiting. What did the Queen's final wishes mean for the future of the royal family? The Queen's vision extended beyond jewels and titles. It was a call to adapt, evolve, and face the challenges of modernity while preserving the essence of what it meant to be royal. With every detail that surfaced, one undeniable truth emerged. The monarchy was on the brink of transformation, and its future was now in the hands of the next generation. It became clear that the reading of the Queen's will wasn't just a moment of reflection. It was a turning point that would reshape the royal family in unimaginable ways. One critical detail hidden within the pages left Buckingham Palace reeling. The will revealed that certain royal properties, long believed to remain in the family, might instead be absorbed into the Crown estate. This shocking revelation meant that Buckingham Palace, a symbol of continuity and royal authority, was not under the Queen's personal ownership, but tied to the institution of the Crown itself. For centuries, these traditions of inheritance had defined the monarchy's structure, ensuring its stability. But now, those traditions seemed precarious. Prince William was left grappling with the implications of this decision. What would it mean for his role as the future king? And how would it shape the responsibilities and expectations of his heirs? The weight of these questions bore down on him with no immediate answers in sight. Secrets of the Queen's financial legacy. It's a very complicated legacy. And in her first big speech when she was 21 for her birthday, she said, "I will rule over all people. I will be there for all people, no matter what race, what creed, what religion." But, she was unfortunately a figurehead, right? And her duty was to nurture and promote the Commonwealth. But the surprises didn't end there. The Queen's financial legacy, often cloaked in mystery, was finally laid bare. Through private investments, art collections, and other endeavors, her wealth was revealed to be enormous. Yet, it wasn't just the scale of her wealth that captured attention. It was the distribution that caused ripples within the family. Some family members discovered they were recipients of private treasures, objects rich in sentimental value that carried the essence of the Queen's life and legacy. These heirlooms, while priceless to those who received them, sparked questions about their role in shaping the future of the monarchy. Would these treasures bind the family closer together, or would they become points of contention? With each revelation, it became increasingly evident that Prince William's path as the future monarch would be anything but conventional. The inheritance wasn't just about who controlled the vast estates or who wore the iconic jewels. It was about defining the legacy of a queen who had shaped an era. For Prince William and the royal family, these moments of discovery marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with challenges, changes, and the unyielding responsibility of carrying the monarchy forward. A legacy divided, treasures beyond measure. Prince William sat with the weight of the Queen's decisions on his shoulders, understanding that her final will had rewritten the monarchy's future in ways no one had anticipated. Buckingham Palace trembled under the weight of these revelations, while the world watched, bracing for the changes that were sure to follow. But as the details of her will unfolded, it became clear that Queen Elizabeth's legacy extended far beyond her legendary wealth. Yes, indeed, Elizabeth did not know when she was a child that she was destined to be queen. That happened as a matter of some royal accident, which we'll get into. But, it's always difficult to try to sum up the public mood in these sorts of things. There is, however, no difficulty this time. Hidden within the will were treasures of unimaginable historical and emotional significance. These weren't just properties or jewels. They were pieces of royal history passed down through generations. Among them was Balmoral Castle, the Queen's cherished retreat in the Scottish Highlands. It had been her personal sanctuary, a place of peace and reflection. Yet the decision regarding its inheritance was unexpected. Rather than being passed to a single heir, Balmoral was to be shared among multiple family members, sparking discussions and raising eyebrows within the royal circle. Another revelation came with the Queen's private art collection, which included works by legendary artists like Rembrandt and Vermeer. These weren't part of the Crown's official collection, but rather personal treasures the Queen had curated over decades. The will named specific family members as inheritors, but the selections weren't as straightforward as many had expected. The Queen's decision showed her meticulous planning and a deep understanding of her family's strengths and interests. By entrusting these cultural legacies to individuals outside the direct line of succession, she ensured their preservation beyond the trappings of royal duty. For Prince William, inheriting such priceless works carried not just a sense of duty, but a profound emotional connection to the legacies of his grandmother and great-grandmother. Perhaps the most surprising moment came when the Queen's jewelry collection was revealed. These weren't just beautiful adornments. Many pieces held immense historical value, each with its own story. The famous Vladimir tiara, for example, was one of the most iconic pieces in the royal collection. This is Her Majesty the Queen's so-called Vladimir tiara. It was made in 1874, and what's wonderful about it is that these beautiful pendant emeralds, known as the Cambridge emeralds, can actually be removed from these diamond interlocking circles. The distribution of the jewelry revealed the Queen's strategic vision for the monarchy's future. Some pieces, including those that symbolize the continuity of the monarchy, were to be passed down to Catherine, the future queen consort. However, other jewels, laden with personal memories, were kept within the family, set aside for the next generation. This deliberate and thoughtful distribution showcased the Queen's intent to preserve her legacy while empowering her family to carry it forward. For Prince William, these personal treasures symbolize the enduring bond he shared with his grandmother and the responsibilities he now bore as the future of the monarchy. Tightly to its history, these were not just physical items. They were tangible symbols of Queen Elizabeth's connection to the monarchy's rich history. These documents and artifacts, carefully preserved for generations, represented not only the Queen's personal legacy, but the very foundation of the royal family's continuity. Speculation quickly spread about how these precious items would be divided. Some were designated to stay within the royal vaults, safeguarded for future generations, while others were to be handed down to her children and grandchildren. The will ensured that Queen Elizabeth's legacy would be passed on, but the question remained: who among the royal family would be entrusted with these rare historical treasures? As the will continued to reveal itself, the true weight of the inheritance became even more apparent. Queen Elizabeth had left behind not just immense wealth, but a curated collection of items that held profound cultural, historical, and emotional value. Now, the British Queen's Platinum Jubilee was anything and everything that you could have imagined. Streets full of people, a stage full of A-list performers, and stuns full of royals. There was a sense of, believe it or not, unsaid unity, something that is not very common in British royalty. These weren't just family heirlooms. They were pieces of a monarchy that had endured for over 1,000 years. Each item carried a story of tradition, power, and duty. And now, the challenge of preserving and honoring these legacies fell to her heirs. King Charles III. More than the crown, the reading of the will made it abundantly clear that King Charles III would inherit much more than just the crown. While his rise to the throne had been expected, few knew the full extent of Queen Elizabeth's private fortune and how it would be divided. The will revealed that Charles would inherit not only royal estates like Sandringham and Balmoral, but also a series of private investments that had been kept out of the public eye. With the crown now under his control, Charles faced a daunting task. The wealth and assets left behind by his mother weren't simply financial. Many of these holdings were imbued with deep historical significance. Charles would need to manage these assets carefully, ensuring the monarchy's stability while preserving the legacy that had been entrusted to him. His reign would not only be defined by his leadership, but by how he navigated the vast wealth and legacy his mother had left him. But perhaps the most surprising moments came when the will revealed who would inherit the Queen's most personal items, her private jewelry collection. Once considered a crown jewel of the monarchy, the collection would not remain solely within the direct line of succession. The late monarch's Queen Elizabeth II's jewelry collection. So, obviously, you know who she is. She's the longest reigning monarch in England, and she ruled for over 70 years. So today, we're going to look at our top 5 favorite pieces. Obviously, she has one of the most elaborate and valuable collections in the world. Some pieces, including those of great sentimental value, were designated for Prince William, ensuring that the Queen's legacy would be passed down to the next generation. However, other pieces were carefully allocated to his children, reinforcing the continuity of the monarchy for future generations. This strategic distribution was both symbolic and practical. It demonstrated the Queen's desire to ensure the monarchy's survival while also honoring her personal connections with her family. For King Charles, these decisions weren't just about wealth, they were about responsibility. His role as monarch would now be intertwined with the personal legacy his mother had crafted and the choices she made for her heirs. For Prince William, inheriting certain properties and jewels marked a significant moment in his journey toward the throne. Though already tasked with significant royal duties, this inheritance took his responsibility to a new level. The will ensured that the Queen's influence would continue to guide him as he prepared to lead the monarchy into the future, carrying forward a legacy of tradition, responsibility, and family unity. Prince William's responsibility was no longer just about leading the monarchy into the future. It was about managing the immense wealth and invaluable artifacts left behind by Queen Elizabeth. The task was monumental, preserving her legacy while also ensuring the monarchy adapted to modern times. The will revealed surprising decisions regarding her personal possessions. Books, antiques, and family heirlooms. These items were more than just valuable assets. They were symbols of her vision for a monarchy that respected history, culture, and tradition. As the reading of the will concluded, I'm honored to join His Highness as co-patron of the Jewel of Arabia expedition, a journey that draws from the long history of connection between the UK and Oman. This expedition will capture and share the stories of Oman's natural heritage. Prince William realized that his role as monarch would extend beyond managing royal assets. He would now be tasked with upholding the values his grandmother had so carefully instilled within the family. The weight of these duties was clear. and the monarchy's future would depend not only on managing royal wealth, but on maintaining the legacy and traditions that defined the royal family for centuries. The future of Balmoral and Sandringham. With the passing of Queen Elizabeth, two of her most cherished private estates, Balmoral and Sandringham, became the center of speculation. Balmoral, the Queen's Scottish retreat, had long been a sanctuary for the royal family. It was here she spent countless summers with her loved ones, away from the public eye. But when her will was read, the question arose: would Balmoral pass to King Charles, as many had expected, or would it go to Prince William, who had a deep personal connection to the estate? Both Balmoral and Sandringham were far more than royal properties. They were steeped in personal memories, royal traditions, and the family's history. Sandringham, too, was not just a residence, but the site of countless royal Christmas gatherings and important moments such as the passing of the Queen's father. These estates symbolize continuity and family unity, making the decision of who would inherit them anything but simple. The Queens will made it clear that these estates were to remain within the royal family, but who would carry on their legacy was uncertain. Would King Charles hold on to them, or would Prince William, with his profound connection to Balmoral, inherit them? The will was thoughtful in its direction, ensuring that these historic properties continued to serve as pillars of royal tradition. Yet the personal attachment each family member had to these estates made the decision deeply emotional. A legacy in limbo, the emotional burden of inheritance. For King Charles, inheriting these iconic estates was about more than property ownership. It was a chance to honor the Queen's legacy and uphold the traditions she cherished. But for Prince William, the connection was even more personal. Having spent much of his childhood at Balmoral, he felt a deep emotional bond to the estate. Would King Charles be willing to pass these treasures on to his son, or would William have to carve his own path? These questions loomed large in the wake of the Queen's death. While the will provided the framework for distributing these properties, the emotional burden of making these decisions was immense. The future of Balmoral and Sandringham, and the family traditions they represented, rested on the choices of King Charles and Prince William. As the will unfolded, it became clear that the royal family's future was not just tied to estates and land, but to the symbolic values passed down through the ages. The Queen's death marked the beginning of a new chapter, and her final wishes revealed that these values would continue to shape the family's legacy for years to come. One of the most pressing questions, however, centered around the crown jewels, those priceless treasures that have long represented the power and authority of the British monarchy. These jewels, housed in the Tower of London, have always been part of the crown, used during royal ceremonies, and passed from one monarch to the next. Yet the question remained: who would inherit the Queen's personal jewelry collection, which held immense sentimental and cultural significance? As Prince William read the details of the Queen's personal will, he was taken aback by how carefully she had considered every aspect of her treasures. Among the most iconic pieces was the Vladimir tiara, a jewel steeped in history and personal sentiment. This is a very small portion of the Rose Bank collection of tiara replicas. Not all of them are part of the crown jewels. Some of them are owned by individual royals. The question of who would inherit it loomed large. Would it stay within the royal family, or would it be passed on to someone outside the direct line of succession? Life and reign. The significance of the Queen's personal jewelry. In addition to the Vladimir tiara, the Queen's personal jewelry collection included several other pieces of historical significance: brooches, necklaces, and gifts from heads of state, many of which had been passed down through generations. These were not just jewels. They were symbols of the Queen's personal connections and the deep history of the monarchy. Speculation quickly grew around who would inherit these highly coveted treasures. Would they be passed to Kate, Duchess of Cambridge, who had already begun wearing some of the Queen's jewelry, signaling her growing role in the royal family? Or would the new Queen consort, Camilla, inherit certain pieces as a symbol of continuity within the monarchy? The careful decisions made by the Queen regarding her personal collection were a testament to her desire to ensure that her legacy lived on through future generations. While the crown jewels belonged to the institution itself, her personal jewelry collection had a unique personal significance, one that connected the past to the future and would carry on the Queen's influence in the monarchy. These decisions would not only affect the royal family, but would shape how the monarchy would evolve in the years to come, bridging the past and future with the most precious of treasures. As the details of the Queen's final wishes became clearer, it was evident that the treasures left behind were not just valuable items. They were a means of ensuring the monarchy's legacy continued. The fate of the crown jewels, while distinct from the Queen's personal collection, was also of great significance. These jewels, including the iconic imperial state crown, were not subject to inheritance as they belonged to the state, passed down to the reigning monarch as per royal tradition. Yet the Queen's will offered a sense of clarity regarding the ongoing role these jewels would play in the royal family's future. They would remain symbols of the monarchy's enduring power, serving as constant reminders of the royal institution's legacy. In contrast, the personal jewels passed down to family members would directly connect future generations to the Queen's life, reign, and values. For Prince William, inheriting some of the Queen's most cherished pieces of jewelry would come with immense responsibility. It was not merely about owning these valuable items, but about ensuring the royal legacy they represented was preserved. The Queen had entrusted these pieces to her heirs as a way of preserving both her personal connection to the monarchy and the continuity of royal tradition. Each piece carried its own story, and now those stories would be passed on to the next generation. For William, Camilla, and Kate, these jewels would symbolize not only the power of the monarchy, but also their personal connection to the matriarch who had reigned for so many decades. Camilla's role as queen consort, inheriting the Queen's legacy. As Camilla became queen consort, her role within the royal family was evolving, and the Queen's will added a new layer of responsibility to her position. The will revealed that Camilla would inherit several of the Queen's iconic jewelry pieces, including brooches and tiaras that had been worn at significant royal events throughout Elizabeth's reign. One of the most cherished pieces was the halo tiara, a gift to Queen Elizabeth on her 18th birthday. This piece, along with other valuable items, would pass to Camilla, signifying her new status within the monarchy. However, Camilla's inheritance was about more than just receiving jewelry. It was a public acknowledgement of her position within the royal family. The Queen's will made it clear that as queen consort, Camilla would play a pivotal role in carrying the monarchy forward. The jewels she inherited were not just symbols of beauty, but also symbols of continuity, representing the unbroken line of the British monarchy. With these jewels, Camilla would not only carry forward the Queen's legacy, but also represent a new era in royal history, one that blended tradition with modernity. The scrutiny of royal expectations. Inheriting such iconic pieces, however, carried its own set of expectations. Camilla's new position as queen consort would inevitably be scrutinized by both the public and the press, and her role within the royal family would continue to evolve under the spotlight. The Queen had carefully selected which pieces of her personal jewelry would go to Camilla, perhaps as a gesture to reinforce her standing both within the family and the nation. But as Camilla inherited these items, she knew well that her role would never be free from intense public scrutiny. The Queen's jewels were not just physical objects, they were powerful symbols. They carried with them the weight of history, representing both the Queen's personal reign and the monarchy as a whole. For Camilla, inheriting these precious jewels also marked the beginning of a new chapter. While some questioned her role within the monarchy, the Queen's decision to pass on these items was a clear signal of approval, solidifying Camilla's place in the future of the royal family. Through her inheritance, Camilla would not only continue the royal legacy, but also help steer the monarchy into a new era, one that bridged the past with the future. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel to enjoy more videos.